Alright farmers, welcome back to the channel. Right, so today we're going to be looking at maximising your yield from your crop when you're doing the harvest. So what we've got here, we've got a field that's been harvested. You can see in the bottom right hand corner, did potatoes last. So we harvested it and now it needs everything. It needs lime, it needs ploughing, and as you can see there, it's got some weeds on the go. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at everything that you need to give the maximum output for this field. So you're going to need a mulcher, so that'll put all the stuff back in the ground that's been left over, so it'll churn it all up and put it back into the soil. You're then going to want to put some lime down. You're going to want to plough it. We then got a roller for any stones that come up. We've got a fertilizer, a cultivator, got some herbicide if we need it, and then we'll harvest it with the trailer at the end. So what I'm going to do on this, first off, I'm going to go through the whole process and we'll get the field up to its top abilities of producing the crop. Then what I'll do, I'll reset and we'll do nothing, absolutely nothing to the field apart from the bare minimum, and we'll see what comes out at the end. So first up, we're going to mulch. So what this mulcher does is all the stalks and leaves and whatever that's left over after you've harvested, it chews them all up and puts them back into the ground, and then all the nutrients that are left in the stalks it will put in there ready for the next crop. So we'll turn that on, we'll lower it down, and as you can see, it's got to change the texture and all the stuff's being mulched back in. So I've gone with the potato harvest because it's going to be the easiest to see out of all of them. I mean, if you've got like a wheat or oats or something like that, when you have the straw spray out the back rather than the swath, it's really hard to tell the difference in the textures between this and the actual texture that's left over by the harvester. So that's why we're going to do it on the potato one, just to give you the more definitive look at the different textures. So we'll do this. What I'll do is I'll finish this field off and we'll come back when we're ready for the next stage. Okay, so that's all the mulching done. So that's the full field mulched, and that's going to give you a 5% increase in your yield once you come to harvest it all. So it's always worth doing these extra steps, because obviously the more you can increase it, the more you're going to get out at the end. So what we'll do next is we're going to put some lime down. Now the lime is going to give you a 15% increase. So with the mulching and the lime, that's going to be a combined total of 20%. 20% extra. If somebody give you a pay rise of 20%, you're not going to turn around and say no though, are you? So that's excellent. So what we'll do, turn that on, and we'll line the whole field. Can't really see it with that texture on, so we're going to have to be a bit careful with doing all this. We'll check on the map once it's done. You can see your tyre tracks where you have been, so you can sort of gauge it from that and where you need to go on the next run. Right, so I'll get this done and I'll see you at the end of it. Right, so the lime's down and we'll go on to the next one. So the next one's going to be ploughing. Now you can turn this off if you so wish, it's entirely up to you, but for the sake of this video of going through all the different growth stages and all the different things that you need to do for a field, we've got ploughing turned on. So we're going to plough the field because the map says it needs it. We're on field 45 there, so it's going to need a plough. Now I must admit, on 19 they had this John Deere plough that was square at the end, rather than these ones that come off at a bit of an angle, and I really like that one. But we'll use what we can We'll unfold it like so. It's quite a slow action on that, isn't it? Right, so we'll lower it down and we'll plough the field. Now, ploughing the field doesn't technically give you a bonus, but if you don't plough the field, it takes 15% off. So you're going to want to plough if you want to keep the state that it's in, if you understand what I mean. So rather than losing that 15%, you'll keep it by doing the ploughing. Right, so we're going to get to the end on that row. We are. Okay, right, I'll carry on with this and I'll see you when it's done. Right then, that's the field ploughed. So as I say, you can turn it off if you don't want to do the periodic ploughing. But if you have it turned on, you need to do it every 3 harvests. So bear that in mind. And what you'll notice, once we've ploughed the field, stones start to come up. So we're going to need to deal with them. Now, the stones don't have a detrimental effect to the harvest yield, but they do damage to your implements. So the repair cost to your equipment does seem to be quite high at the minute on FS22. So you might be worth considering doing something with these stones. So you've got 2 options. You can either get the stone picker and just take them off the ground altogether, or you can do this, what we've got here, the roller. So with small stones you can use this with, it will just roll it back into the ground. The big ones it won't do, so you will have to get the old stone picker off on that one, but by the looks of it we've only got small ones. So we're going to put the roller over it, we're going to push them back into the ground. Right, so we'll lower that down and away we go. So again, it's given a different texture to the ground, more of a rolled seed bed look. And as you can see, as we go over the stones, it's just getting rid of them, pushing them back into the ground. So eventually I'd imagine you're going to have to use the stone picker at some point to get rid of them, because you can't keep pushing them back into the ground forever. But time will tell on that one. So I'll finish off this field and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so that's the field rolled. So as you can see, all the stones are now gone. So we didn't have any big ones. So if you are left with any big ones after you've rolled them back in, you're going to have to get them off with the stone picker or stone collector, whichever you want to call it. And then we'll move on to the next stage. Now what you could do in 19 is you are able to fertilize the field and then sow it. So on FS22 you've got to do 2 fertilizing states. So what I'm going to try now is to see if we can fertilize it first, and it gives us our first fertilizer state. Now you try saying that 2 times. So we'll put it on. Right, so it's definitely changing the colour of the field, which is always a good sign. So that should be our first fertilizer state done. Probably could have done this field in one go. And then what we'll do, we'll go over it with the seeder, and then we'll see if we can put one on straight after, because that will be a time saving thing. Then you can just fast forward until your crops are ready to harvest, then you haven't got to worry about putting one on at the right time afterwards. Okay, so that's that done. So next up is going to be cultivating. Obviously you need to make a nice level seed bed for when you start sowing. So we'll get this done. Sorry, that's a seeder. Right, I'm going to go get a cultivator first. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've gone and got my cultivator. I'm gonna get, oh, there we go. Right, I'm gonna get this field ready for sowing. It's a slightly different texture again than the rolled seed bed, but this will give it a nice level bed for when you're sowing, so the seeds will go in the ground a little bit better. Right, so again, I'll do this bit and I'll come back when the field's finished. Right then, slightly different texture than what I left you with, because I got a little bit of a mistake on the go with the first lot. If you lime before ploughing, the lime doesn't go into the ground. So that's a nice little tip for you. Don't make the mistake that I did, so I had to go and re-lime again. So plough first, then lime. Right, so that's all done now. So if we get out, the field is now saying 50% fertilised, so we did that first pass, so that does work, the same as 19, and the lime's done and the ploughing's done. So we can now get on with seeding. So I'm going to seed now, so we'll lower that and turn it on. So this will make it nice and easy to see where you've been, because you're going from the white to the brown soil, and I will see you once the field's finished. Right, so the field's all sown now, so we've got a full field of wheat. Now I'm going to try and see if we can put another load of fertilizer on before it's even started growing. Oh, and it does allow it to as well. Excellent. So with this method you can then put 2 fertilizing states on the ground without having to come back in a month's time. That's excellent. Excellent indeed. Right, did I get both sides? Looks like I'm going to have to go down that slight edge, is it? We'll give it a once over anyway. Right, so the only thing now then between where we are right now and harvesting is going to be dealing with any weeds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fast forward a month, get a bit of growth on the go and see if any weeds come up, and then if they do, we've got the herbicide there ready to go. So I'll do that and I'll see you when we need to use it. Right, so the crop is grown, it's ready to harvest, and throughout that whole time with the process that we've used today, we didn't get one single weed. So have a look on the map, and there, field 45, there's no weeds in it whatsoever. So that is very interesting. So we don't really need that herbicide, or we haven't needed that herbicide for this growth that we've got on the go. Don't know whether that's going to be the whole thing all the time. We'll find out later on in more gameplay as the days and months progress. So what we'll do now, we'll get this harvested, we'll see how much we get off the end, and then we'll reset it all. We'll do the bare minimum, which is going to be cultivating and sowing with 0 fertilizing. We'll leave the weeds on and we'll see what we get with a bad field state, if that's what you want to call it. So we've done the maximum we can with this one. We're going to go from top quality, top yield that we can get to rock bottom, and we'll see what that plays out with. So I'll get this harvested and we'll see what we got at the end. Right, so that's the field harvested. But what is all this in the ground now? So when we first checked it before we started harvesting, there was no weeds in the ground. So if we go back to the map now, the whole field is covered in weeds, as you can see there. That is a strange one. That really is a strange one. So it looks like doing the process that we've done keeps the weeds at bay until you harvest it. So then once you do the process again, it's going to get rid of all the weeds, and when you harvest it again for the second time, the weeds are going to come back. It's a bit of an interesting one. We'll see if that's a bit of a bug, a bit of a glitch, or if that's just how it is. That being said, we have got 6,076 litres of wheat off of that field, having doing all that process. The mulching, the cultivating, the liming, the fertilizing, the ploughing, everything that we've done has led us to have 6,076 litres. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reset the whole thing, and we're going to do the bare minimum, and we see what we get at the end of it. Okay, so we've reset. We've got the field back to harvesting state, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of weeds amongst the crop. So if you look in the bottom right hand corner, got 0% fertilised, needs lime, needs ploughing, and 100% weed. So we go into the map there, you can see the whole field is absolutely covered in weeds. So let's see how much effect that's going to have on the output. We'll get this harvested, and then we'll see how much literage we have come the end of it. So I'll finish this field off, and I'll see it when I'm done. Right, so the field's done. So we got 3,076 litres off of the bare minimum field. That's compared to the just over 6,000 litres we got on the full ball field. So there's quite a big difference. I mean, this field is not particularly that big either, so if you can imagine on a bigger field as well, that the difference is going to be huge, absolutely huge. Now I'm going to put it in a little chart now, because I do like my charts if you've seen any of my other videos. So what you've got there is mulching will give you 5% increase, liming will give you 15% increase, rolling, although the stones themselves don't affect it, but the actual rolling job will give you a 5% increase. One fertilizing stage will give you 23% increase. The second fertilizer stage will give you another 23% increase. And then arguably, if you've got ploughing turned on, that will also give you technically a 15% increase. If you haven't got it, it's more of a 15% deficit that you don't lose. So drop it in the comments, see what you think. Is it an increase or stopping a decrease? But overall, if you haven't got ploughing turned on, you get a 71% increase. If you have got ploughing turned on and you don't plough, that's an 86% increase without factoring in the weeds. Now, I haven't factored in the weeds because it all depends on how many weeds you get on your field. So that's one of those mathematical equations that we can't really do. But either way, doing these jobs makes one massive difference. So this might be something you want to factor into your gameplay. Right, that being said, that's it for me today. If you like the video, drop us a like. But for me, that's it for today, and I'll see you in the next one.